Page 50. Read. A revolution in history.
What would it be like if you had to go a whole day without using wheels? You'd have to walk everywhere. You wouldn't know what the time was. You'd have no books and no computers. And you'd have to carry everything you needed with you. It's a strange idea, isn't it? We don't know who invented the wheel, nor do we know exactly when someone decided to use it for transportation. But we do know that the wheel completely changed the way people lived. It might just be the most important invention in our planet's history. About 5,000 years ago, before the wheel was invented, people relied on animals to transport many things. But if they wanted to haul really heavy things like building stones, the animals weren't strong enough. So transportation was a big problem. Most things were moved using wooden rollers, like logs, but that was hard work. At least it was hard work until a clever person from Sumer had a good idea. This person figured out that you could attach a wheel to both ends of a roller. That made an axle. And on top of the axle, you could put a wooden platform, a flat surface like a sheet of wood. The axle kept the wheels in place, and the wheels rotated just the same way that rollers did. You could also get an ox or a donkey to pull it along. But even more importantly, you could carry a lot of things, and even people. Without realizing it, the Sumerian had invented the world's first vehicle. Early wheels were made out of flat discs of wood, which were heavy and difficult to rotate. The Egyptians found a way to make a wheel that looked like a ring instead of a disc, making it much lighter. They attached support rods called spokes to the center of the wheel, and then they added an iron rim. All these improvements gave the wheel better traction and made it more durable. The wheel didn't just change the way people got from place to place. Ancient man learned how to use the power of running water to turn large mill wheels. Small wheels called gears connected the mill wheel to a grinding machine. When the gears rotated, power was transferred from one to the other. This meant that people could make bread because they were able to grind wheat and make it into flour. The same idea of wheels and gears was used in the invention of a huge number of mechanical devices. Machines of every size and shape, from watches and blenders to printing presses, wouldn't work if the rotation of wheel gears hadn't been developed. A day without wheels would mean empty schools and office buildings. Trucks and trains could not transport food to stores. Planes could not take off or land. There would be no bikes, skateboards, inline skates, or robots. And even now, 5,000 years after its invention, the wheel is still inspiring new technology. Wheels will always be a central part of life, and the need for them will grow as long as humans think, invent, and change.
Page 50. Read. Page 53. Grammar in use. D. Listen and read along. Then circle the correct answer.
Let's race to the tree. Okay, I think I'm going to win. No, I'll win. I won't win this race.
Page 58. Read. Planets in Rota.
Zoog, hurry! Yelled Zoog's dad. Your grandmother is sick. She has a fever and purple spots, Take your pogo stick and fetch Dr. P721. The obedient Zoog bounced off to the doctor's house as fast as his pogo stick would carry him. The doctor and his 4 assistants came and carried Zoog's grandmother away on a special bed to make her better. Fortunately, people always got better on planet Sinrota, where illness rarely lasted more than 15 hours. Zoog was tired. Earlier, he'd taken his pogo stick and hopped to school and back, a distance of 5.36 kilometers each way. He went up to his bedroom and looked through the brand-new telescope he'd received for his birthday the previous week. Zoog's life was tedious. His planet had no books, no clocks, no computers, and no TV. Far away in another settlement, Zoog had cousins, but there was no mail, so he couldn't communicate with them. Although he longed for a more exciting life, he felt fortunate that he had good friends and no serious problems. It was dark 17.7 hours a day on Sinrota. Zoog searched the night sky, looking for the magical planet he'd seen many nights in a row. Suddenly, there it was, the blue planet. Zoog gazed at it. The picture was blurry, but he could see areas of water, distant mountains, and patches of bright light. Who lives there? He wondered, and what do they do? If he looked hard at one spot for a long time, he occasionally glimpsed small figures with strange circular objects propelling them along. Not only did Zoog have to go to school on a pogo stick, but it was also his job to do the shopping for his parents every evening. This meant dragging a heavy sled behind him to and from the store. At the store, he stacked up delicious orange munch balls and green yumsters on the sled and pulled it home before darkness fell. Everything he bought was grown in his settlement because it was too risky to bring food from other parts of planet Sinrota. Nobody could drag sleds further than a few kilometers, and the food would be spoiled long before it could reach another settlement. Even the Animoogs couldn't drag sleds very far, so it was foolish to attempt long journeys. Zoog had never left the area he lived in. 5.36 kilometers was his limit, but he dreamed of exploring further. Zoog looked through his telescope again. He adjusted it slightly, and he was fascinated to see activity on the blue planet. The blurry figures he'd seen before suddenly came into sharp focus. There were figures driving around in vehicles of all shapes, sizes, and colors. There were figures riding bicycles. There were huge airplanes zooming fast up runways and flying into the air. It was thrilling. He also saw figures sitting on buses and trains, moving fast from one city to another. In a park, he could see small figures, children, playing on skateboards and inline skates. They were leaping through the air. It looked incredibly daring. It was then that he had his big idea. "I know what I'm going to do," said Zoog. He began to draw pictures of everything he could see. These wonderful machines with circles that made them move. Trains, planes, bicycles, skateboards, cars, buses, wheelchairs, ambulances, taxis, carts, wheelbarrows, motorcycles, trucks, roller coasters, Ferris wheels, helicopters, strollers, windmills. Zoog drew all night long. In the morning, Zoog ran downstairs and showed his parents the pictures. And in just a few short days, the history of Sinrota changed completely and forever. Thanks to Zoog and his telescope, Planet Sinrota now has wheels. Things will never be the same again.
Page 61. Grammar in use. D. Listen and read along. Then circle the correct answer.
I'm seeing a movie on Tuesday afternoon. What about you? I'm seeing my teacher on Tuesday afternoon at 3:30. How come? I forgot my homework.